Here's something that doesn't add up. Up to 84% of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, everyone, say they support requiring proof of citizenship to vote. So why is a bill built entirely around that idea, completely stuck, not stalled for a few weeks, not waiting on a committee, dead in the water, with almost zero chance of becoming law anytime soon? The answer isn't really about voting. It's about one obscure Senate rule that most Americans have never fully understood. And by the end of this video, you will. It's about one obscure Senate rule that most Americans have never fully understood. And by the end of this video, you will. This is the story of the SAVE Act. And it's really the story of why almost nothing controversial can pass the U.S. Senate anymore. Let's get into it. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, the SAVE Act, sounds simple on paper. It would require documentary proof of citizenship, like a birth certificate or passport, to register to vote in federal elections. It already passed the House. Republicans lined up behind it almost unanimously, joined by a handful of Democrats. By the numbers, this should be a slam dunk. But here's the twist most news coverage skips over. Support doesn't survive contact with the details. One Politico poll found that once voters hear the specifics of the actual bill, not just the general idea, support collapses from the 80s down to just 37%. So, which number is real? Both. And that gap is exactly where this fight lives. But even if 100% of the country loved this bill, there's a wall in Washington that public opinion can't touch. And it's not the House. It's not even really the president. It's a single number, 60. Stick with me here, because this is the part that actually explains everything. The Senate doesn't just vote yes or no on most legislation. Before a bill can even get a final vote, it usually needs 60 votes to end debate, a procedure called cloture. That's the filibuster. And here's the part that surprises people. A senator doesn't have to give some dramatic speech to block a bill anymore. In today's Senate, all it takes is a signal, a quiet objection, and the bill is frozen. No cameras, no drama, just stuck. The SAVE Act doesn't have anywhere near 60 votes. It never will under current conditions. So no matter how the House votes, the bill hits this wall and stops. Which raises the obvious question. Why not just get rid of the filibuster? That question is tearing both parties apart right now, and not in the way you'd expect. Democrats aren't just skeptical of the SAVE Act. They're unified against it. Their argument, non-citizen voting in federal elections is already illegal, has been since 1996, and study after study shows it's vanishingly rare. Meanwhile, they point to who gets hurt by strict document requirements. Married women whose IDs don't match their birth certificates, college students living away from home, low-income Americans who don't have quick access to a passport or certified birth certificate, rural voters far from the offices that issue these documents. To Democrats, this isn't about security, it's about friction, deliberately making voting harder for specific groups of people. That's their case. But strangely enough, the biggest threat to this bill right now might not be Democrats at all. Skeptics from the Republican side suspect the Democrats don't want the bill to pass because they are hoping that some illegal immigrants will vote for them. But strangely enough, the biggest threat to this bill right now might not be Democrats at all. Here's the plot twist. A small handful of Republican senators, the ones who could theoretically help kill the filibuster and pass this bill outright, refuse to do it. Not because they oppose the SAVE Act, they support it. What they oppose is breaking the 60-vote rule. Why? Because they know the Senate flips. Today, they're in the majority. In a few years, they might not be. It's a bet on the future versus a win in the present. And some Republicans simply aren't willing to make that trade. On top of that, there's a quieter, more practical worry. Forcing thousands of local election offices to overhaul their systems and re-verify millions of voters close to a major election could trigger chaos and a wave of lawsuits. So, if the filibuster is the wall, is there a way around it? There's one legislative process that only needs 51 votes, not 60. Budget reconciliation. It's how huge tax and spending bills get passed even in a divided Senate. It's how huge tax and spending bills get passed. So why not just run the SAVE Act through reconciliation? Because of something called the Byrd Rule. It only allows provisions directly tied to spending. Even if lawmakers tried to dress it up, the Senate parliamentarian would almost certainly strip it out during the Byrd bath. So that door's closed too, which leaves the Senate with two real options, and they're both extreme. Option 1, bring back the talking filibuster. The one you've seen in movies where a senator has to physically stand at the podium and talk for hours, sometimes days, just to block a vote. The case for it? Transparency. The case against it, while one senator holds the floor, the entire Senate grinds to a halt. No judges get confirmed, no spending bills move. John Thune has pushed back on this idea, pointing out that unless you actually have the 60 votes eventually, all the talking filibuster does is change the theater, not the outcome, which leaves the nuclear option. Get rid of the 60-vote rule entirely, and any bill, including the SAVE Act, could pass with a simple 51-vote majority. Overnight. Sounds clean, right? Here's the catch. Abolish the filibuster, and popular bills pass instantly, but every law becomes temporary. Whoever wins the next election can rip it all up and start over. Laws stop being laws and start being pendulums, swinging hard right, then hard left. The exact 60-vote threshold that frustrates people today is the same thing that's historically forced compromise instead of whiplash. So here's where that leaves us. The SAVE Act isn't stuck because Americans disagree on the idea of proof of citizenship. It's stuck because of a decades-old procedural rule that most people never think about until it's the only thing standing between a bill and becoming law. And that's really the bigger story here. This isn't just about one bill. It's a preview of every major fight coming to Congress in the years ahead. Because as long as the filibuster exists in its current form, this exact standoff is going to keep happening, again and again, no matter which party is in power. If you want to actually understand how Washington works, the machinery underneath, make sure you subscribe because we're breaking down the next one of these fights very soon.